Tragedy strikes in the Atlantic League with grave consequences. We discuss on this week's episode of the Indie Ball Report podcast. We're back again, episode number 283 of the Indie Ball Report podcast, and we have as our co-host, as always, the most famous man around independent league baseball, because he had a tweet featured in the American Association's tweet in graphic. How does it feel to be this famous, Ryan?
Feels incredible to finally have my work being recognized by any league at this point, considering I think I've given all of them reasons to never speak to me again. So going great. It's huge. Maybe one day I'll work in baseball again.
Yeah, if you keep talking about Diamond Baseball Holdings the way you do.
Buddy, there aren't a lot of buildings I'm willing to burn down, but we can discuss them all next time we discuss Diamond Baseball Holdings.
Phenomenal. Now, could you give me all that again, but as a baseball answer?
Not every coach busts lights on fire, but when they do, I make sure Diamond Baseball Holdings is on it. Does that count as a baseball answer?
What's wrong with it? I like how you kept an American Association theme there.
I try.
God, this is going to be a straight out depressing episode, because like the first three stories are all just horrific in their own special way. So I like trying to keep the levity in this show when we can, because Christ knows we're going to need it. Any case, so I guess we're not going to beat around the bush too much on this, and we should just kind of like jump into the obvious headliner, which of course would be the tragedy in Southern Maryland, which I'm not even sure how to really approach it. I guess we'll just kind of give a dissertation on the general track of events, and then we'll go from there. So I'll just kind of run through this. We will go right into it. So last Friday, August the 2nd, there was a bounce house set up at the Blue Crabs game, and to be as direct as possible, it went airborne. This occurred at approximately 9:20 at night. It was already a gusty night. According to the National Weather Service, there were wind gusts up to 15 miles an hour or more at that time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was mentioned on one of the broadcasts that it was also a generally windy night at some point.
The weather report I saw had gusts up to 30, but I did see the reporting you sent me that mentioned local wind gusts up to 50 on a separate report just about the weather. Yeah, literally both broadcasts cut when the incident happened. I would assume after the fact they kind of went back and got rid of the actual incident. But I mean, literally the last thing being said cut mid-sentence by York's broadcast was about wind. So can't imagine it was saying that wind's calm, especially based on the look of the ballpark at the time. So yeah, it definitely wind was something, and multiple witnesses have referenced it as well.
Yeah, it was notably windy, creating a potentially dangerous environment. Obviously, the outcome proved that to be true, that it was a dangerous environment, that the wind was there. The bounce house was secured via stakes in the ground. However, it does appear as though these stakes did not hold, and the bounce house went airborne approximately 15 to 20 feet in the air before crashing down the field. Multiple children were in the bounce house at the time, and unfortunately, two suffered severe injuries, including a 5-year-old suffered life-threatening injuries and was medevaced to Children's Hospital and was later pronounced dead at the hospital. So extremely unfortunate. A second child was also medevaced to the same hospital, Children's Hospital, in critical but not life-threatening condition. All other children injured in the incident were received some sort of aid from on-site EMS, as well as the team's trainers and volunteers that were in the crowd at the time. So far, it would appear as though the team and their employees have not commented. There were several declined comments that I saw across the across the various reports that have come out, there was one line from the Charles County statement. I will read that statement in just 1 second, including that line. But outside of that, there really hasn't been too much in the way from either team not either team, but from the organization itself, as far as commenting on what happened, outside of a couple statements just saying that they were canceling baseball activities for the 3rd and 4th. And then after that, they've been on the road since. So we will see if they return home this weekend to play at home, or if this will go on a longer hiatus at home. However, there has been a GoFundMe set up for the Hicks family. That statement I just referenced, it was issued on Saturday morning, it appears. So here is the statement from Charles County, Maryland. On August 2nd at 9:21 p.m., Charles County 911 Public Safety Communications received a call from Regency Furniture Stadium reporting that a moon bounce house became airborne due to wind gusts while children were inside. At the time, the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs baseball team was playing a game, and the moon bounce house was carried approximately 15 to 20 feet in the air, causing the children to fall before it landed on the playing field. Charles County EMS personnel, who were already stationed at the stadium for the game, along with trainers from the baseball team and several volunteer first responders who were in attendance, swiftly began patient care within minutes of the incident. One pediatric patient suffered life-threatening injuries and was transported by Maryland State Police Trooper 2 to Children's Hospital. This patient, a 5-year-old male from La Plata, was later pronounced deceased. A second pediatric patient who sustained non-life-threatening injuries was also flown out by Maryland State Police Trooper 7. Quote, "We extend our deepest empathy to the children and their families during this difficult time," stated Charles County Government Commissioner President Reuben B. Collins II, Esquire. "We thank our EMS team and the Maryland State Police for their swift actions to ensure the children received immediate care," end quote there. Courtney Mitchell, general manager of the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs, stated that, quote, "Our entire organization shares our condolences with the families mourning the loss of a child and concern for a child who was injured. Our thoughts and prayers are with them all," end quote. The Southern Maryland Blue Crabs have canceled tonight's baseball game and all baseball activities for today, Saturday, August 3rd, 2024, and are offering counseling and support to families, players, and fans attending the game. That is the statement from the county. That is the only real statement we've gotten, of course, except for the statement saying that the August 4th game was postponed, simply saying tonight's game, August 4th versus the York Revolution, has been postponed. Our thoughts and prayers are with the affected families and the Southern Maryland community during this difficult time. That has been all that the team has said so far. Also worthy of note, the league has not, at least to my knowledge, issued any sort of statement. And if they have, they certainly have not done a great job publicizing that. So that is the general overview. We'll fill in some gaps. We'll give you some more details throughout the course of the conversation. But we now switch to discussing this matter. And first off, just saying it's a tragedy that this occurred. And it feels, at least on the surface, as though this could have been prevented.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around still that. Just I don't know. Yeah, I guess our gut reaction, sort of talking to each other, just texting that day was something. It doesn't just happen. I mean, you hate to jump on. You hate to take the. I don't know. Okay, let me rephrase. I guess. In a situation like this, it really the first thing isn't really about pointing fingers. And also there's plenty of time for something like that when more facts come out. So you don't rush to judgment and end up, ruining reputations inappropriately or without need. But I think, we both work with kids. I have worked in and around in inflatable things for kids like that. And immediately what struck me was the number of things that should be in place to prevent something like this happening. essentially, for people who haven't been to Southern Maryland before, as you follow the first base line and the wall along it out into like right field and foul territory, the wall goes up and gets higher. And in that higher area is sort of, I guess, where they have their inflatables right now. And from what it sounds like, so that wall is probably 10, 15 feet high. And then above that wall on the concourse is where this inflatable was. And it sounds like it rolled several times with the wind and then up and over that that wall. The what is not that high of a wall from the concourse side. It's probably 4 feet, 5 feet, maybe 4 feet, I guess. And then about 15 plus down to the field level. So that's how that came about. But yeah, our gut reaction before, any further reporting on it was that something didn't feel right here. It's being framed by some as sort of a freak event. I think we both can pretty confidently say that it does not seem like a freak event.
Yeah. I mean, when you have the weather report saying that it's windy, when it's notably windy to broadcasters that are essentially in an enclosed booth with the possible exception of keeping the window open just so that way you don't overheat, really, and they can even tell the wind, it's a dangerous environment for something that's essentially a giant balloon, right? These things are created in a way that if a breeze comes in or underneath it, it's just going to take it like a sail. Right. And so, you need to be aware of that. You have to have this thing secured down. There's no real way around that.
Yeah, I was telling you before this that there was someone in Lexington, which Lexington obviously has their own reputation for poor management and risking people's health, but somebody that I worked with there who personally kind of saw the trend of how things tend to run around there. And as a mother, like she took it upon herself to be the one who was like, I will be overseeing the amusement section here. Like I will own this. It's fine, to make sure it's done well, because the risks are great. Lake Erie had a weather event with wind this week and they had their bouncy house blown like onto or over the highway. Like, these things, they have the little cover on them that catches wind naturally. There's no weight to them. If you're jumping up and down them, it's like basically taking the weight off it. Think about like almost the way you can start dribbling a basketball just by like hitting it when it's flat on the ground. Like even if a ball is like lying there flat, you can sort of punch it to bounce the basketball. In the same way, like the jumping starts to get a little bit of like, it can almost bounce the bouncy house up off of the ground a little bit. Like it's all primed to get air under it. And
it's a known thing too that these things do have a tendency to kind of take off on you. I was talking to several people that mentioned that they've seen in 2 or 3 other ballparks this thing happen. Now, in those cases, luckily, there was nobody in it, and they're fairly empty ballparks, so there was no harm really that came of it. But even still, this is a notable occurrence here that these things can tend to take off. And it was staked in. But you don't think maybe you should secure the stakes with something else? Like sandbag it or...
Yeah. You gotta have sandbags. That's not even me being like, Monday morning quarterback. Like, you just have to have sandbags. You would secure the tarp with it, with sandbags. You would secure, like, when you bring one of those like pop-up tents to an event, like those things ship with sandbags.
You would secure a beach tent with sandbags because there's wind coming off the ocean.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you secure a bouncy castle with that?
Yeah. And now, like, I don't know, we're getting into, I don't know if this is a productive conversation, but I will mention, so this is not like completely unfounded. So first, speaking of issues with bounce houses, so some good reporting from Sean Johnston with Baynet. I think Baynet, Bay News.
Yeah, it's baynet.com.
Oops, should have said Baynet. It definitely said Bay News. But anyway, so they posted this article it's August 4th. In a stunning development, 2 eyewitnesses have publicly claimed a previous incident at the Blue Crab Stadium closely mirrored Friday's fatal tragedy. It goes on to say, one eyewitness stated he personally witnessed an incident between 2010 and 2012 where the bouncy house attraction at the stadium blew loose from its tie downs with children on board, became airborne, and landed on the field. This mirrors the fatal event at Friday's game. The witness, speaking on condition of anonymity, said he was present for Charles County Youth League event at the stadium with his wife and son. He stated, "We have zero axe to grind with the Blue Crabs. We went to the games for entertainment. We think it's appalling that the bouncy house was still being used." These claims, if true, cast a different light on Friday's tragic events. The incident, which went national, was widely characterized as a freak occurrence or a fluke event. If the previous incident is confirmed, it suggests Friday's tragedy was a foreseeable and preventable episode. And then that was added to by a further reporting that came out actually today, on Thursday, which detailed multiple things. I'll just briefly, I'm not going to read, but I will briefly go through a couple of pieces here because I think it's relevant. Basically, after that story, the one I just went over, witnesses reached out to the reporter. One witness said that in 2022 there were she had complaints about like the inflatables setup, saying employees were on their phones and there was an overcrowding of kids going up the inflatable. She points out that's her son in the video that she shows, so she has like actual proof of this, going down with his dad because they were afraid that he'd get walked over if he went by himself. Shows August 20th, 2022. They're playing the genomes in that one. She also stated that she made a separate and much more recent email complaint to the team after witnessing safety concerns again last week. She provided the Bayonet with a screen capture of a July 27th email sent to their info at Southern Maryland Blue Crabs email address. The email sent the evening after the game against the Rockers, 6 days before the fatal bouncy house incident on August 2nd, received no acknowledgement. In her email, it said it was about the bumper boats attraction, basically saying that staff told patrons that life jackets were not required and that they didn't have enough life jackets for the children. I don't know. You and I are both kind of like, yeah. I think if water's involved with the kid, you should have life jackets, but I'm not sure what the rules are on that one. What I do know is I did a deep dive into Maryland's rules for inflatable attractions, and it's 25 miles per hour. If anything higher than that, they should be taken down, which it seems like winds were gusting at least to 30 miles an hour at the time. Yeah. But this article goes on to say they talked to people who were actually at the game, who reached out to the reporter. This is a crazy one, man. This is something. This was the one that kind of caught us. Two separate eyewitnesses reported being at the bouncy house on the night of the incident, approximately 15 minutes before the attraction became airborne with children inside during the August 2nd game. They described witnessing the stakes securing the bouncy house into the ground, quote, become loose as the wind picked up during the game. And both witnesses reported seeing staffers from the facility hammering the stakes back into the ground and then covering them with a cone. These two witnesses, who were chaperones for children from their church enjoying the evening for faith and family night, returned with the kids to their seats after witnessing the event. Quote, the children were begging to return to the amusement area after this, but my intuition told me we should stay in our seats watching the game until the winds died down. We never imagined the horror which would unfold just moments later. It could not have been more than 10 to 15 minutes after we returned to our seats. So, I mean, what it just shows is this is literally a ballpark where I'm not saying 10 years. It was 10 years between those two incidents. I'm not saying like it's fresh in everyone's mind, but what I know is in Wilmington, we had there was supposed to be a skydiver. This is before my time there, but during my time as a fan, there was supposed to be a skydiver for maybe opening night there. And during a run through of it, the parachute got away from the skydiver and he spun off into the concourse and hit a wall and died. And that incident from that, like, it was a hard no on anything, any parachute, any skydiver. No, we don't do aerial stuff. And all that to say, like, you know, just because it was 10 years ago doesn't mean it isn't a lesson like carried forward. Like, we have witnessed this happen. So we know we keep that thing really secured because there's children inside. Maybe we make slightly more conservative decisions with whether it's left open. And then to hear that, you know, the stakes were already coming up, which, you know, for the stakes to come up, that means the bouncy house is pulling on it. That's
that or means the stakes weren't secured correctly as well. It could be a mixture of a lot of different things. The point remains, right, whoever's running that attraction should make a note of that, and they're supervised, because I presume it's an intern that was probably running that.
That's what it seemed. Employees were on their phones, and there was an overcrowding of kids going up the inflatable. It said about the one thing.
Describes. So,
the intern
running that. Yeah. So, presumably there, then their supervisor should be taking note on that.
Yeah, man. It just
It feels so preventable. That's the problem.
so there's so many lines. There's trainings. There's standards of when to close it down. There's vigilantly watching the equipment. It's
There's just common
so many
sense
layers of it.
involved in this. I would tell you if it's windy and these stakes keep coming up, maybe we should go ahead and secure this thing better. Or maybe
Even-
we should just
yeah.
close this thing down right now. Because it's already
Right.
9:20. This game is already well near the end of the line.
Yeah. I mean, and I am trying to, choose words carefully because we still know 100% of the facts here. We're going on what is still limited reporting. It's basically, yeah, the story went national, but basically the reporting was just regurgitating the same facts. There's a bigger conversation, which I'm sure we'll have here momentarily, but I just can't. Okay. My dumb statement is it sucks because that's the thing I want to say, so I'm going to say it. But that's a stupid thing to say, I know. But it sucks in that, like, we love indie ball, and specifically the reasons we love indie ball are for a lot of the reasons that like make it so fantastic because it's so community based. It's more community based even than minor league baseball, which is known for being community based. Because minor league baseball, your team is in your backyard, but those are just transient players who are trying to go somewhere else. And while it's somewhat true for indie ball, when you go there, they're playing for a championship. Like the people running the team are trying to win a championship for your town. So it's already a community event. It's a fun event. It's supposed to be a safe spot. And just to like, I don't know. I think about my own family, and like if we were to walk into a place with 3 of us and leave with 2 of us, I don't think I'd recover from that one. And to think that happened around like something where we both love it, but also we love it for like specifically the reasons why it's a great place for families and kids. It's extra frustrating.
See, it's aggravating to me because it's so preventable. And it's just, it feels like with this organization in particular, it just feels like whenever we're talking about them, it's never for a positive reason.
No,
right?
dude.
Like, you're sure occasionally we'll have the, hey, look, Stan went ahead and got his whatever, like 2000th win as a manager, or Daryl just did an incredible thing again. Sure. But whenever we're talking about the team in particular, it's always, hey, look, it could be something as minor as the photographers threatened to sue people again, or they lit their field on fire to try and dry it out. But now it's getting serious. Those things in the past, they're kind of like funny happenstance things, right? Where it's more like, look at this oddity thing. It's embarrassing to the league, and it's embarrassing to the team, and it's embarrassing to indie ball. But hey, any publicity is good publicity, I guess. Now we're at this. Now we're at children are getting severely injured. One's dead. And how many of them now will have some sort of mental scarring for the rest of their lives? And what about the players there that had to witness?
Yeah.
What about the bullpen guys that were down there that saw this thing fall, 15 feet in front of them?
Yeah.
And now we got it. Now what's left here? You have a family that's left to pick up the pieces. You have anyone that was left in attendance that now has that as their everlasting memory. You have everyone else that was watching this that was particularly helpless to do anything, left with that feeling. And here we are now a week later, no statement from the team, no statement from the league, when in reality, they should have put something out by now. And I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, saying, okay, let's cancel everything through till Monday. And on Monday, we'll release a pretty generic statement saying it was a tragedy And it's a shame, and we stand with the family here, we stand with the community, and just a basic generic statement. Because we want to let the lawyers look it through first to see what comes next. And we don't want to go, you go through the process that always happens with this thing. And I was fully expecting that. And Monday, nothing happens. Tuesday, nothing happens. And now it's just deafening silence from everywhere around that team. And the fact of the matter that York releases a statement before Southern Maryland does, when York has no real reason to release a statement outside of, we're not playing baseball today, guys. It speaks volumes there to the way things are ran. And it brings me back to, there's a reason why we talk about little things. And I know some people think we're nitpicking or just looking to, make fun of or, point out different things with teams when we nickel and dime them on not having certain things right that seem minor. But the fact is, we point this out because when they're not doing little things right, it begs the question of why aren't they? What else are they doing wrong? And what's the thought process that makes this seem acceptable? And what is it going to lead to? And right now we're witnessing the ultimate failure and what it ultimately can lead to. This isn't just nitpicking for the sake of it. It's nitpicking because there's a good chance there's something deeper wrong. And it reminds me of back in, I think it was the Jackals, weren't having EMTs and whatnot at their games. When we have teams that were cheaping out and not getting the proper medical staff there. Just imagine of how bad this could have been if you had no EMTs that were there, not in the stands, not, actually brought in by the team, and all that was there were 2 team trainers. Imagine that. Already it's horrific and it's a tragedy. Already there's been unspeakable loss, but it could have been worse. And that's the crazy thing to me. And so when we talk about these things, it's not just to be mean. It's not just for the sake of saying something. It's to point out that, yeah, this is important. This is a business that entirely relies on the fact that you're a community-based business that's here for the community, and you have to do everything right. And when you're going to market yourself as family-friendly and a safe option to bring your family to, you better damn well live up to that. Because when you don't, things get bad very quickly and in the most serious ways. And so really, I'm left thinking, holy crap, what a failure. And now we're left with the ultimate price paid. And that's why it really pisses me off to see it, because now this is the lasting thought for really this whole area of baseball, for the whole independent area. Selfishly, it pisses me off for that reason. Whereas, we can't ever get one thing. Hell, last week I was saying, hey, look, the Atlantic League's a beacon of stability for once. Isn't that an indictment on the situation? And immediately they go and undercut that by doing this. And that pisses me off. Now, it doesn't piss me off and sadden me as much as the fact that, there's a family right now that's to bury their 5-year-old child. That's unspeakable. And I hope that they're able to, find some peace in this somewhere along the line. But at least for the time being, the fact, I'm going to keep harping on the fact that this was allowed to happen, because it certainly feels that way when you know the stakes are coming up, you know it was windy, and you still left what sounds like a very disinterested intern that was doing a bad job at running the thing. And now it appears that there were numerous times that this was brought to the attention of game day staff, and nothing was done. This screams preventable with everything that we have available to us right now. And of course, things can change as more information becomes available. But as it stands right now, this feels extremely preventable. And that's what angers me the most, is that this didn't have to happen, that there is a history of things like this occurring. There is a history of this being documented as a problem. And in the immediate time before it could have been prevented. And it would have been one thing if this would have happened early on in the game, which thank God it wasn't, because think of how bad it really could have been if this happened at, say, 7:30, 8 o'clock. when that ballpark's probably still mostly full as opposed to 9:20 when it's probably empty out a bit because the game is at what, probably the 7th or 8th inning at this point. So it could have been worse. But every time I go to make a point, just a new thought comes to my head to derail the old one on just how horrible it is. And I don't mean to sound sensational, but it just genuinely pisses me off that it could have been prevented. That you were told about this and you could have done something about it. And if it would have happened earlier, at least then it's like, okay, well, the bounce cast was always going to go up and things could have happened quick and whatnot. But it's late in the game. Just take the thing down. You keep hammering the stakes in and it's windy. Just take it down. Sure, you'll have some disappointed people, but the responsible adults in the crowd will go, yeah, I mean, it is windy and it's late. It's probably a good decision to take the thing down. And it sounds like Monday morning quarterbacking, but it doesn't really sound like that crazy of a suggestion to say, hey, it's after the 7th inning. Maybe we should start taking some of the amusements down. It's just frustrating to see.
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm going to reiterate some things you said, but I think this at this point is somewhat a therapy session. But
and it's worth reiterating.
Something I have indie ball is not my only strange interest. I often go down the true crime rabbit hole, and which has led me to the sort of cousin of that, which is basically deep dives, documentary style deep dives into for lack of a better term, tragic events that have happened, and a lot of them, like for instance, like if it's like a train accident or something like that, and it actually started as me not liking flying very much, and I got into it because it made me feel better to learn about issues with planes, because at the end they would always be like, and here's the things they changed. So I got into this naturally, but
yep.
It strikes me how there's two types of equally sort of tragic ways that this stuff can go, that these sort of tragic events seem to happen, which is, I mean, just one thing happens, and like in the course of the story, they chose to take the right path, and not knowing that had sealed their fate 2 days from them. That was it. The ball was rolling. That's it. No going back now. The other is one where it is painful in another way, which is, for lack of a term, there were multiple exits. There were off ramps galore. And when I look at, I was not there, but when you look at the reporting, you look at the eyewitnesses, and you look at, I mean, personally, my own experience working with similar things, it would be extremely surprising for there not to have been multiple, again, for lack of a term, exits throughout the evening. Multiple ways where somebody could have said, hey, let's get out of gear here. Let's back this down, pack it up, call it a day. We don't have sandbags on this thing. Different conversation, but we do not. So with that, we're going to have a different conversation. Those things will pick up sandbags, by the way. I've seen it done. I mean, I have seen a tarp, again, different sized object, but grab a gator, one of the 4-wheel gators, into the air at a ballpark. Don't play with wind when it catches something, but with it in mind, hey, there's got to be some extra caution here. And going back to, okay, maybe we should have somebody, maybe with some more experience on this thing watching it. Maybe we should have more staffing, which is a different conversation, which I'm sure we'll get to. Maybe we should have, when wind looks like it could be gusty, announcements to every staff member. I don't know if they did. Maybe they did. About, hey, if you start seeing things get a little sketchy, literally anybody can call this. Anybody can be like, nope, we're done. The intern, the president of the team can be running the bouncy house. If an intern walks up and goes, yo, I think the vibes are bad on this right now. I think we should probably not. Just safety first mentality on it. It seems that there were multiple other ways and policies that could have been in place. And the frustration, like you started to talk about as well, is that I think those exit ramps go back further than any of us, than we'll ever see in a court document. and there will be court documents, but
Lots of them.
oh my God, there will be. But that's just, again, different conversation. But
Yeah.
we're later in this one. But you mentioned it, and something that I find frustrating, and this is going to be damn. There's no good way to say it without being like, oh, it's Ryan. I don't know. Look at me. That's not what I mean by this. It's just I can only speak to my own experience, so I'm doing it. I don't want to assume too many things of others in a situation like this. So I'll speak to at least what I know, which is we've maybe the most heat I've ever taken for reporting I've done was the Southern Maryland drying their field with fire thing. And I mean, I got calls from the league. I got calls from other front offices. I got I remember I was heavily shit talked on Twitter by their groundskeeper. I had Matt Latos, I think, chirping me. And like, I mean, it was like a full blown thing. Like it was like 80 notifications quickly and not positive. And my point was never look at these idiots setting their field on fire. That was really never it. And people jumped in and be like, that's actually a way that like other fields have been dried. Like MLB fields have actually done this before. I'm like, yes, okay, cool.
Yeah, in 1885.
My thing from the jump was always, why is there water in the field? And what I learned, because I knew the guys who were there, Palanca's Lexington was in town. I had just been working for Lexington. What I was finding out was the tarp had like several holes in it, which would just obviously let water through. If it didn't let it through when it was raining, it would let it through when you fold it back over to dump it. So considering that, what I was trying to reiterate was this is a bad look. I wouldn't be posting it publicly to brag about it. I'm not even sitting here hating on it and saying that this is a trash move. You got to do what you got to do to try to get a game in. I've seen people try to dry it with a damn helicopter or whatever. But what gets me is that we're a professional baseball team without a feasible tarp. What was pointed out to me then was, well, it's the county's stadium, it's the county's property, it's the county's tarp. So they want a new tarp, but then you get it from the county. I'm like, okay, you are a professional baseball team who does not have the power to get a working tarp. You knew this was, I think this was an issue the year before. This has been an issue for a long time. Like, what is you're a professional baseball team in this league that we talk about, that we vouch for and all that. And you have enough red tape and back and forth and bureaucracy and budgeting issues where you can't get a new tarp. And not that the tarp is cheap, I know that. But it was a concerning sign. Next to the inability of the organization to admit that maybe it's bad, maybe it's a tough look, maybe, just maybe, mistakes have been made. And then you have multiple occasions of staff members over time very publicly running their mouth about things where they might be in the right, they might not be, but either way, it's a bad way to represent an organization. And the reason I bring that up, and I'll go one more too. I also took a lot of heat when I first started reporting on Gastonia's issues. We can go all the way back to year one when it was obvious that nobody really knew what they were doing in the front office. And then year two and year three where things were going better, but there were obvious signs of issues, and I started pointing them out, and they really didn't go anywhere. People didn't jump on them. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's like massive fraud going on, and this team is underwater. Even go back to the things I pointed out in Lexington, that nobody is responsible in this show. They're risking people's safety for money. They're mistreating employees. They're they don't think detail oriented it's going to be trouble. And then they had that shooting. Like, there is, when I love indie ball. I don't sit here for indie ball and try to get clicks. I wouldn't report on indie ball. I wouldn't sit here and talk about indie ball and try to make teams look bad, because that makes all of us look bad. I feel like every other week, I like kind of cringe when I listen to it on the podcast because I say it too often. I said on my own this week, I'm a big rising tide lifts all ships guy. In the same way, if we're punching holes in a boat, it doesn't make any of us look better. It doesn't help any of us. Like, I wouldn't be saying something for no reason. And it frustrates me that, I feel like a lot of excuses are made for teams because we know it's a hard industry to succeed, and we know they're trying their best. We know nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to put people at risk. However, wanting to do right and doing right is different. And if wanting to do right and do a good job is enough to get a free pass, that's not okay. If the standard is dropping, even if it's because that's what needs to happen to keep the doors open, it just can't be good enough. And that's why I point things out when things get janky. When I hear about bad owners, when I hear about bad management, bad experiences for players, for employees, for fans, we call it out because it is a sign of a bigger issue. We can get ahead of it now and make it a non-issue, or it needs to be pointed out as being not okay, at the very least, so other people won't start thinking it's okay. So all that to say, I would not be surprised. This is an organization where I have heard for years that they are understaffed, they are underfunded, they are a bureaucratic mess with them in the ballpark and the county. They are, frankly, there's some big fans of Courtney, the general manager. I have never heard anything that positive from people who know what they're talking about. Sorry on that one. And it just seems like a directionless mess of a situation. But with nobody intervening and nobody forcing things to improve, they'll never improve. And in fact, they're only going to slide further. So I unfortunately do think, was this a series of events that led to this within the night? Yes, but I also think there's a series of events over the course of several years, probably since pre-COVID, that has led to this. Which leads to a bigger conversation about the league as a whole, which we can get to if we would like to, but that's just where my head's at. And sorry, that was a long-winded thing, but like, it's just to see it. You know what sucks? I was heartbroken about it, but I wasn't surprised about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's really where, honestly, with, like, here's the thing. We talk a lot about a bunch of different teams here.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, we'll always say certain things about certain teams. Like, with Long Island, we're always like, yeah, well, Long Island, they get certain, this Long Island treatment. But the thing is, I could never see something like this happening there. Because they just run too tight of a ship to where they would have said, Gus, are how high? Take it down right now. We're not rolling that dice. There's too many organizations that we'll talk about and go like, they're not good on the field. They've had this issue off the field. We have concerns with the way they're running the team in this regard. But generally, as far as fan facing goes, we go, oh no, that just wouldn't happen. That wouldn't be deemed acceptable. Like, in no way. Because things like this don't happen unless there's a culture that allows it to happen. You don't have this many things occur and your name doesn't come up this much unless it's been deemed acceptable for that to occur. So when you say it's heartbreaking but not surprising, I 100% get what you mean, and I 100% agree with you, because it is heartbreaking, but it also is equally not at all surprising because it keeps occurring. Not to this scale, but certainly bad headlines involving the Blue Crabs are not an abnormal thing.
No, and I'll phrase it this way. We'll talk later about Sioux City's bus fire. Yeah. When the bus fire happened, my first thought was, yeah, that'll happen. Like, mediocre. I'm not going to say anything about the bus company. I don't know the bus company, but like, probably budget-ish bus travel. Yeah. Heavy usage of buses, probably not the newest buses in the world. Long trips. Like, yeah, that'll happen. I feel like we have a bus fire once every year or two in Indy ball.
Oh, that was always some sort of bus
same. Oh, that was the same feeling I got though when I saw the Southern Maryland story. Not like the full extent of it, just that it had happened. I was like, yeah, that happens. That tracks. That tracks is really what it was. Mm-hmm. I am thinking a little more about how exactly. I don't know. I know it's harsh there, but it's just I don't understand. And now, kid died. I don't care. I'm harsh, but
exactly. This is a situation where, quite frankly, it's doing a disservice to pull a punch.
I agree. I think the one thing, and we can talk about the future, I guess, at some point here, but the one thing I'm a little surprised by even is I've floated it to a couple of people, but everyone seems to feel like the team will be fine. The organization will be fine. I don't know, man. Here's the other one, by the way. I
Yeah.
was there when I visited in 2021. I have proof. I was on the broadcast for that. And I had a very nice time. I was there for 2 days. However, the second game I was there, so it was a night game that day, like a camp day. And camp day, it was like it was hot, and I just had no need. I like picked what was like the quietest looking seat, ticket wise, and then I think like a group got moved to like right around me. So like, all right, I'm gonna walk around and watch this game instead of sitting in my seat. And I ended up talking to one of the EMTs there. Really nice. Like, I mean, we talked for like 4 or 5 innings, like about half the game at least. And what sticks to me was she was very nice. She cared a lot about the organization. And that she did not originally, she was not going to work that day. However, she was at the Silver Sluggers game that they did like a couple weeks before, which is like for senior citizens. And she had like noted, she was the EMT for that, just like there should have been more EMTs for that event. Like there were a lot of old people around. There's foul balls. There was limited netting, I think at the time at least. Steps everywhere and not enough handicap spots for all of them, which that's a big ask for, senior night. But she specifically was like, there were not enough EMTs for that. And then with that, she saw that camp game on the counter and she was like, I will be there.
Yeah.
And but if I recall from that, I think there were 2 EMTs for like probably 1,000 kids. Like if one takes a hard foul ball, that might take 2 EMTs. Like,
I mean, there's just general things. I mean, kids choking on food, just
it's stuck in my head.
Being stupid kids, really pushing each other down like steps or something.
Right, and it stuck in my head just because I was like, oh wow, like I didn't even think about that, but I looked around, and I was like, oh my god, you're right. And like obviously, it was enough that she went out of her way to plan for it when the organization did not in that instance. That was 2021. However, I think it establishes the sort of pattern that I saw myself in Lexington of the bare minimum, not really thinking the extra mile about if something, usually it's we do what we have to do. It's not what do we need if something happens in order for things to be okay. And I mean, I saw it, as I said, in Lexington, the mentality was very much like disinterested. Those are details for someone else to handle. They're like, I'll be fine, whatever. And I don't know. It stuck in my head. It was one of the first things I thought of when I started reading the details of the story. And it just seems like, as I said, a bigger trend. With that said, if this is a trend, and this is something I've heard from people who were in that organization, who left the organization, from people who are frankly currently in that organization, and something I've heard from players and people just in other organizations before this incident, that organization is understaffed and constantly shorting things and doesn't seem as focused on the details. And I think that's been especially that way since COVID. I really wasn't around pre-COVID, but that EMT I remember was talking about how things feel a lot different. And I've talked to other people and confirmed those details ever since, sort of like, have things changed? Or like, yeah, definitely. The belief seems to be that's financial. But I'm just, all of that to say, yeah, I guess this seems like something that should have been seen before as a potential issue. There's a long track record of problems, a long track record of questionable finances and bad attendance. And that's when shortcuts start to happen. With that said, I mean, I don't know. How do you reestablish trust with the community? I know I am surprised by how positive the chatter is around the team right now. Facebook comments are turned off, but like you go online, and I think part of this is because no one knows the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs exist. I'm sorry, that was really harsh, but like I've talked about before, they're in the middle of nowhere. Like,
and there's like 2 roads to get into there.
From something I've talked to a few fans about too, is it requires marketing to sell tickets for them, and their marketing budget has been like slim. It seems like since COVID. It's just so I don't know. Maybe it's just people not understanding or not being in the loop. I am amazed that they're not being absolutely matched everywhere for this. I mean, it seems mostly like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for everyone involved. Like prayers to everybody involved. And in my head, I'm like, man, like, I don't think so, Bo. Like, I think they're lucky it's Faith and Family Night, and maybe they're being a little polite about it, some of the people involved. And I think
Honestly,
it's all.
I almost
I think
wonder
that
is it
article that I read was the first one that was really like, hey, like, no, like, let's look at this.
like, is this just genuinely a thing of we're just too plugged into this to where we know the details, we know some of the people behind the scenes, we know how this kind of thing works, and this is just, another glaring example of what happens when you take this like shortcuts are acceptable route, which honestly the most dangerous part about that is normally you're right. Normally it does work out fine and there's like next to no issue. And the issues that are there would have happened with the long route anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But then over time it's like, oh well, we took a shortcut here, we took a shortcut there. Next thing you know, you cut out all the support beams and now all it takes is one light poke and now the whole thing's gonna come toppling over. But I do wonder almost like, are we too like connected into this to where we're like, see, we told you this was gonna happen. Everything we preach about, this is the magnum opus for it, where it's like you don't do things right, and then this can happen, and now it has happened, and everyone else is just like, damn, that's unfortunate. I guess they were doing what they were supposed to, and just bad luck. Ah, shucks. Thoughts and
Could
prayers.
happen anywhere. Yeah. And personally, I mean, I have shown a lot of self-control on not. I kind of hinted at it day one, I had pointed out on Twitter, I was like, it's kind of hard to fathom how this can happen. Just so we're all clear, like, here's what wind gusts look like that day, and here's what the rule is in Maryland. Just kind of trying to see if there was traction to it. And there wasn't. So I sat back. I was like, I'm not going to be that guy in this situation here. We didn't even know what was up with the poor kid who passed. Like, we weren't even sure that result. Like, I was not going to sit there, and I'm not trying to be the lead person on anything like this, lead that charge. Like, we're 6 days removed from this now. And this is not the pending lawsuit is not being discussed aggressively at all. And I'm like, are they going to, there's no way they coast through this.
No.
I mean, personally, I'm
not going
to let it happen. Like, I will interject myself if I have to in this, because this is ridiculous. But
yeah,
I think, and look, I might ask every question and it might not be their fault. I am open to that possibility. I hope that's the case. I hope this was a tragic accident that could have happened anywhere, and they did everything right. And this is just a bizarre, and they took it seriously when it happened the first time 10 years ago. And since then, this is just a tragedy that happened, and what could have been done. Yeah, maybe they could take it down sooner. That's it. But I don't believe that will be the case. And I think we need to figure that out. Hopefully somebody else will be figuring it out. Hopefully people will be asking the right questions, and reporters will do their job, other than the one reporter who wrote both those articles that we went through. But yeah, I'm really surprised. And maybe everyone feels like it's in poor taste right now to start pointing the finger. But I mean, I feel like if this happened at a Phillies game, it would take 12 seconds for people to go, what the hell were the Phillies doing in this situation?
In fairness, so that's major league versus minor league.
I don't know if there's that much of a difference, though.
I feel like people will take the difference of like one's a multi-billion-dollar corporation versus one that's more seen as a local community business. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think they should be held to a relatively similar standard here. I mean, like, fan safety needs to be paramount, and even above that needs to be the safety of children and fans. You mentioned earlier we both work with kids, and all I'm thinking is, like, if I did anything that questionable, I'd be getting pulled aside for a very long time and talked to about this, and it'd be very much 50-50 if I had my job still. And certainly we had this outcome. Losing my job would be the bare minimum concern for me. So, like, I don't get it. But, like, that's the only point I really can object to is, like, I do think I understand why people will be a lot more, up in arms has happened at a major league game versus a minor league game. That being said, though, realistically, they should be just as annoyed either way, because the outcome's the same. And really, who cares who didn't do their job if we still are dealing with a dead child either way.
Yeah, I'm with you there completely. I don't know. I guess it's more or less the huh. I don't. I guess I'm just wrestling with the fact that I'm being polite, and I'm not sure why at this point. So I'm just choosing to grapple with that live here on your podcast. You're welcome. I guess I don't know. I'm like literally in my head trying to draw a line of like, okay, if I don't see anything by this day, like, what are we doing?
I mean,
I'm
for
sure there
me,
will be a
it's like,
lawsuit, but like,
yeah.
is this one of those things where like a lawsuit happens, it gets finished out in 2 years, and people are like, oh, all right. It's somewhat complicated because like there is apparently a new ownership coming into Southern Maryland, is what I'm hearing. I don't know. That was actually news to me today, so I got to confirm that. But and there's some state funding coming for them, so I don't know what this does to all that. However, I mean, like my gut reaction, and I still firmly believe it, is like I think of this as like properly looked into, and we look back into what exactly happened here. I would be not only unsurprised, but I would be in favor of them not opening the gates next year. And how often am I like, we need less indie ball? Like, that's not my take. I just think we need to start having conversations like you have mentioned in text to me. Like, we keep wanting to expand indie ball, but we have too many low quality markets and organizations, and it's causing poorly run teams to operate unchecked longer than they should. And this is the furthest extent of what can happen. But to be fair, I mean, back to Lexington, there was a mass shooting at the Legend Stadium 2 years ago, and we just don't talk about it. That happened, and multiple occasions
because it's uncomfortable. After it
because that they knew. So this was not during a game, but it was after a game, I believe, during an event that they took because there was money involved. Despite it was a risky person to take a deal with, multiple people said, "Do not do this." They did it anyway.
Security was lax.
Security was lax. Literally, the person who signed the deal, the salesperson who signed the deal for it, was like too drunk to be at the event. Other people had to cover it, and a shooting happened, and multiple people got shot. And then, by the way, until they were guilted by myself and a bunch of other people and put on blast, they were going to keep it unreported, quiet, and they were going to play a game that day, like the next day. Like they were cleaning up blood. They were calling in front office staff, the same ones who had to work 2 games, by the way, desperate for money. So they're working for 2 teams all year. Hey, can you come in early and do clean up on this shooting that happened? So
it's a biohazard. Don't worry about it.
We very easily could have had multiple deaths on our hands there from an organization that was running unchecked, desperate for money because they couldn't handle things. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened here. I'm saying it's possible. And if that's the case, then we need to start having conversations about leagues and what role does a league play in allowing some shit show to play out, because they like having that many teams in their league. They don't feel like dealing with it. They're happy they got the money in. They're getting the money every year from that team.
It's just easier among the ownership groups not to fight that fight.
Yeah. And, you know, if that team folds, that team folds. We're not going to fold them up. What are we talking about here? That's unnecessarily complicated. That's a mess. There's a buyout involved. But like, if you don't have a safe and healthy environment for everyone, physically and mentally, whether it's staff, fans, players, then what are you offering? Like that, I think if this turns out the way I think it does, then not only should we be having a serious conversation about whether Southern Maryland deserves to continue to be an organization, but we need to have a serious conversation about what role does the Atlantic League play here and how much blame should they take.
There's another Maryland market that's ultimately available. There's another Maryland market sitting right there.
People love to think that I like to jump in the Atlantic League. I just said the Atlantic League might have some responsibility in the death of a child, and I'm trying to work in the Atlantic League next year. Cards on the table. So believe me, I'm not just looking to jump on them. I'm not happy about saying this, but I'm saying, like, for the good of the sport and fans and everybody involved, these are the questions that need to be asked. And again, I hope what we find is it was just a tragic accident. but I have a hard time believing it based on what we know. Boy, is this going to be a
Yeah.
fun listen for somebody trying to get to work.
Boys are gonna love listening to it on the bus on the way to the game, you know?
Good God. Yeah.
But I'm in lockstep with you. And like the thing is, we have Spire City sitting right there if you wanted to make that switch out for the year.
Mhm.
They're sitting right there. And the thing is, I'll build off it. And you mentioned, like I told you about this. It's an uncomfortable conversation that we don't really want to have and nobody wants to have. But there's just a lot of people in these front offices that generally are not equipped to handle these teams that don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of ownership groups that aren't in it to build a good team. They aren't in it to be a community asset. I'm not even asking for those two, but I'm just asking to work responsibly.
Mhm.
Be responsible. You could be in it for the wrong reasons. I don't care. But just do the right thing. Just do what you have to do. And it's amazing how in public facing businesses like this, how often doing the right thing simultaneously is the right business decision. That's all I'm asking for you to do. And like part of me is almost baffled, right? That we see a lot of the same people stay in the same positions. And I'm not even just talking Southern Maryland, I'm talking generally across the board among a lot of the organizations that we've gone after, quite frankly, somewhat aggressively, somewhat just in passing, and generally just in the this organization's a mess. We got to make a change here because it's not looking good. That these people are allowed to stay in the same positions when you could honestly fill them with younger talent that's hungry to work and will work cheaper. I mean, think of all the people we've just had on the show that we've talked to on the show and think of the jobs they're doing. You have Brady, who has worked in, God, some of the most difficult situations and conditions you could ask to work in as a front office guy and get started under the Honey Hunters and build an amazing team that would be still great under the best of conditions, but is particularly amazing under the conditions he had. You have Jack, who's out there building a team essentially from scratch in the American Association. Hell, even you look at Asher over there, who is building a team back from relevancy or back to relevancy after basically a decade of doing nothing in Lake Erie. Now, granted, they've had their own thing, and we'll talk about them later on, but a tremendous season from them, and he's part of that success. And all these guys are what? In their early to mid 20s? And you're going to sit here and tell me that we can't find guys that are younger that would be willing to work for less to try and run teams, at least on the baseball side? And I understand the business angle is different, but I refuse to believe that young, bright people that are really good at one thing can't be taught how to do the other thing too. And I refuse to believe that there aren't people that are slightly older, maybe in their early 30s, mid 30s, that can't handle both tasks. And if we know we have people there that are doing at best a mediocre job, what are we afraid of by making a change? I understand there's some politics stuff going on there. I understand that it's not just as easy as, well, go out and put a help wanted out on a teamwork and see what you get. I get it. It's not that easy. But if you're working in this industry, you're a player in this space, I just refuse to believe that you don't have the connections to find the right people. And I refuse to believe that the right people, the guys that are motivated, highly intellectual, that are, the model of what you want running your team, won't find a way to make themselves known. I refuse to believe that. So why are these people still in these positions if we're not willing to make that change off the bat? And furthermore, the conversation that's very uncomfortable to have is we shouldn't be talking about expansion. We should be talking about contraction, quite frankly, because I think there's some dead weight in just about every league that we could use to cut. And we could go ahead and really refine. There needs to be an accounting that's taking place. And I don't know if this is going to be this instant. And the cynical part of me makes me believe that this isn't the instant that's going to make every league take account of themselves and their members, even though it should be. I do think we could really use to cut back on some of these ownership groups that refuse to take responsibility, want to find scapegoats when things go wrong and their half-baked plans don't work out. and either replace them with people that know what they're doing, that go through a more intense vetting. And I understand selling and buying a major league sports franchise isn't the same as, buying a used car. There aren't as many buyers and there aren't as many capable people that are looking for it. So it's not exactly you have a wide variety of individuals that you can really draw from here that you want. Believe me, I understand the process is not easy or simple, but really you either got to replace these people that aren't qualified or you got to fold these franchises or put them on hiatus. Because right now, keeping them around is clearly doing more damage than good. And I'm not even just talking about this one incident. I'm talking about as a whole. Think of all the teams we said, what the hell are they doing? This looks bad. And if we're pointing this out and we're saying this, what are the other members of the league saying? What are the business community saying? What are the people that actually have meaningful sway in this decision-making process saying? And more importantly than all of that, what is this saying to your customer base when you're allowing this to continue on and allowing the embarrassment to continue? And I know we're supposed to be the rah-rah indie ball people. We're supposed to be rooting for them. But sometimes to do the right thing and to really root for the betterment of things, you have to root for things to get worse before they get better. It's like when you take care of a tree. You got to prune some of the branches every once in a while. And if you just see someone hacking apart a tree, you're going to be saying, why are you taking down this tree? I thought you liked trees. And the answer is, I'm not taking the tree down. I'm saving this tree because there's too many dead branches and too many branches that are just harming this tree's existence. We got to trim it up and get into shape. And quite frankly, we're long overdue to have that conversation, and it may have to wait a little bit longer because at some point, we do have other things to talk about. But you mentioned it earlier, this is basically a therapy session, and there's a lot of ideas that we've thrown out here just because when you have a tragedy like this, there's so many different thoughts that come to mind. There's so many different areas that need to be discussed that it's really hard to just keep the conversation narrowed to one thing. And it just kind of becomes an all-encompassing conversation. But yeah, there's just so many questions, both about the incident, about the league, about the team, and about the larger picture of things that we really have to say. And quite frankly, there's still so much more we could say about.
Yeah. I'll start to slowly move on from it. It's more just there needs to be a realization of nobody, whether they want one or have one, is entitled to a professional baseball team. Like it, and we need to take a serious look at leagues that are okay, just either getting handed money by someone or continuing to take money from someone who is just underperforming. And yeah, they're saying things are changing. Yeah, they're looking at, well, what will happen to the community? There's jobs that will be lost. It's like, yes, but as we've just learned, it is not overdramatic to say that lives could be lost by the wrong people running something. So that's it. I'm okay to move on at this point. There will be more discussion, I'm sure. It's just unendingly exhausting, I guess. I've been thinking about this like nonsense. I haven't posted as much this week because I'm just like, I don't know, can't really stop thinking about it. But
oh yeah, no, I mean, like I agree with it. When we were discussing this on Saturday, I thought about it for the whole weekend, to be quite honest with you. And since then, I've really been thinking, like, okay, how's this conversation going to go? How's it going to go? And I hope it was somewhat structured in there. I'm sure towards the end we started just, reeling off what's on our mind. And I hope people can appreciate it. And I hope people do appreciate where this is coming from, right? This isn't that we want to drag teams. This isn't that we're looking for something.
We're not piling on.
Yeah.
We're not trying to just discuss the hot topic.
Yeah, this is genuinely coming from a place of concern. And like, I feel like in this situation, it's okay to be pissed as hell. It's okay to be deeply upset about this. A child's dead because people didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I don't think that enough people are taking that seriously.
Yeah. I hate to reiterate, I'm really shocked by how little I'm seeing about it.
Yeah. it feels like I'm in the Twilight Zone. It really does. And I'm sure a lot of the back half of this, talking about, the pros versus cons of the league sizes and the business operations of this and all that goes on, that's a conversation we'll have, a few months from now, right? When the season's over and everything's all said and done, there isn't actual, baseball to discuss, and there's more time to really put the work in to make it the conversation we want. Because I know a lot of the regular folk here, they like when we talk about the business of things. They like when we talk about the back end of things, the kind of real nerdy stuff. They like that conversation. So that's something that you talk about when you can dedicate, 2 hours to just talking about that. But man, there's just so much going on here. And like I said, there's so many untapped areas here. And I just hate to keep going on about it because at a certain point, it's just sound hitting you. And I don't want to be that. It's a serious topic. It has serious outcome. And it's aggravating. It pisses me off. I'm deeply disappointed in just about everybody involved. And it's heartbreaking that this happened. And I can only imagine just the heartbreak you feel as a parent, where you think like you're going to take your kid to a baseball game, like something that happens thousands of times a year across, how many continents, for how many years, over a century, people have been doing this for. And you go into that thinking, hey, this is a fun family activity. This is the kind of thing that we enjoy doing. It's safe, it's fun. And you go, you're having a good time. And then in the flash of a moment, you go through the most unspeakable tragedy that really any person can ever possibly conceive of. And that doesn't even account for however many people whose children were injured in this. And you're left leaving a ballpark with your kid all bandaged up, probably having night terrors about this for an indefinite period of time. This is serious. This is real life. This isn't just like, I don't want to diminish some of the other things we talk about where it's just like, yeah, it sucks when these teams screw up and now, some people lose their dream careers of, wanting to be a ball player, wanting to work in sport. Some local businesses suffer, maybe a couple go under. Not to diminish that. That's people's livelihood. That's their hope and their dream dying. That's still serious. But in no way is it the same level as, your kid being hurt or killed. They're two different levels. Like that, I can't get over that. And if that doesn't piss you off, if that doesn't make you angry, I just don't know what will. And the fact that discourse around it has been generally accepting is almost sickening to me.
Yeah. I got nothing else on that.
Yeah.
For now, obviously, I do have a lot more on that, but we gotta not.
Yeah, we gotta keep moving on it. But yeah, it's just tough. Who would ever thought moving on to a bus fire would be the cheery story?
Yeah, seriously.
Really. On that note, we're going to talk about another thing that happened on Friday, which normally would have taken the lead, but the Sioux Falls Explorers, their team bus caught on fire. Just point blank, team bus caught on fire. Team was traveling to Kane County for their series. At about 170 miles in, the bus caught on fire. Luckily, no one was injured, although this could have been very bad. The overhead bins did melt, so some players lost some equipment. They lost their gloves and stuff. They had to go on a Target run to try and get some last-minute equipment. for the game the following day, which was still played. Explorers won that one 5-3, by the way. So good job by the boys to rally and get the dub.
Yeah.
Big win for them, for the emotional perspective there. Supposedly it was a mechanical issue that caused it. The bus was leaking oil, and it seemed like when they noticed it was leaking oil and they pulled off to go through a small town and the oil started to sit, that's when the thing caught on fire, and they managed to evacuate the bus in time, and no one was really hurt. There's some pictures in one of the links of the bus fire. This wasn't just like, oh, the engine caught on fire. No, this thing was engulfed in flames, a decent chunk of it.
Yeah.
This was serious. So that was certainly something here. Fun little note here too. JD Schulten, the man of the hour in Indy Ball, if you could say so. He lost his hat from his first start of the season, the one that really got the ball rolling on Schulten Mania. And that's significant because the Hall of Fame wanted the hat. However, this does have a happy ending. When the team's GM, Tom Backmeyer, was driving out to check on the guys, make sure everybody's all right, and he managed to stop by the bus site, the site of the fire, and he found the hat on the side of the road. So that hat is now on its way to Cooperstown. All is well and good on that front there. So, mechanical fire on the team bus. No one was injured, so we could kind of take it a little bit lighter. But yeah, scary signs.
Not great.
Drops the Friday in Indy Ball. Of course, the Friday my vacation starts. All the tragedy and excitement happens.
Yeah. Yeah, glad everyone's all right. Not a ton to say. The story with the hat is very cool. I'm glad that was salvaged and sent to the hall. It's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Getting something as I get older. It's so funny. I simultaneously grow a little more, like almost jaded to the Hall of Fame as well as reverent for the Hall of Fame. It's a very weird combination of like, certain that it is just sort of a group of potential morons who vote for who is in the Hall of Fame. That awareness in me grows alongside the awareness that if I were to ever find myself in the Hall of Fame or even something involving me in the Hall of Fame, I would publicly cry quite a bit. So very cool, man. That's very cool. I'm excited that is. Anytime any ball stuff goes to the hall, it's a good thing. I know I saw the cleats from the first ever steal first base last time I was there.
Cody Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That'll count.
That's a pull right there. Damn, that's like my first year doing this. I remember the whole controversy around that too, where guys were like openly agreeing to each other, like, we're not stealing first, don't steal first.
It was like he just did the damn thing, and then everyone was like done with it. I think he was the only one to do it. Like I think there was a couple weird ones, like a passed ball, but it was like all right.
But it's like it's a passed ball, like that's different.
Yeah, I think it only happened once, maybe technically maybe 4. I don't know. I'm not gonna say the number off the top of my head, but technically I think it happened a few times. But like legitimately, I think it only happened once.
Yeah, did Milky Mesa get one?
Maybe. Oh, I'm not. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, but. Yeah, man, it's nice to see the Hall of Fame stuff. It's nice to see this kind of had a positive outcome on it. I like the fact they got the dub, too. That's a nice kind of, like, cap on it. They got into the hotel, like, 3 hours late, pulling at 11 o'clock, cancel BP, get to the ballpark. Unlike, can't be much sleep at all, because, I mean, like, you're not sleeping the rest of the way there, right? Like, your adrenaline's too running from that.
I don't know, maybe. I could see it at that point. It's just like you're just at that point really like tired. I could see that, but like,
yeah, it's almost burned to death in a
I can
bus.
see the rally though. I can see that, like, one of those things where it's like, all right, it's it's a bit of a mess, but like, hey, like, let's just get it done. Like, almost it. I've always found like something like that happening off field kind of like relaxes you. Like you're just happy to be back playing ball type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's more the vibe of what went on there.
I could definitely see that. Yeah. I also think it's a bit of like, guys, after everything we went through here, we got to win this game.
Gotta get a dub.
Exactly.
You know what? You know what it is, and I actually used to find this a lot because I sucked in college, and like it was a very stressful time for me because I'm not an academic type.
Yeah.
But I was playing rugby through college, and I always like and I played some of my best rugby during college because I really believe like when you're on the field, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing that you can do about that off the field stuff. Like you can't get your phone out, can't make calls, can't put in insurance claims, can't fix the grade you got on that test if you're in college. And I think like literally it is like such a weight off sometimes to be on the field is like maybe I don't know. Damn, I should probably start playing sport again. Anyway, it's fine. I'm back. I'll work that out in therapy sometime. No, I won't.
This show was your therapy.
Buddy, it is surprisingly close.
I mean, I know it definitely comes up in therapy, but you know.
Yeah. I
do agree with the point though that you're making. Though I do agree because it's like this is almost like a safe space because you've been doing it for so long that you're just like, I get to do the thing I know I'm good at. I know what to do. I know how this goes, and I can just kind of like for 2 hours, 3 hours, I can forget about all the off the field bullshit, and I just can focus on being part of the team, doing my job, and going out and playing the game I love. That's all I got to do right now. That's all I got to focus on. And like, it is a bit relaxing there. With that said, how good does it feel after that game to get back to the hotel and have your head hit that pillow?
Oh, it's got to feel amazing. That's a good sleep right there.
Yeah. Because you know when you get into the hotel like 11, at best you're getting like 3 or 4 hours of sleep before you got to head over to the ballpark. And you sleep in the middle of the day, that's not good. You got the light peering in right through that one little gap in the curtains, beaming you right in the eyes.
Hopefully it's a hotel with good blackout curtains, but it's a toss up.
It's indie ball, brother. They're not getting that kind of
hotel. Right?
I know the Frontier League media guy used to say where they'd stay.
Oh, they just announced a new deal, didn't they?
They did. That's correct. I love how they announced every partnership as though, you know.
Kind of funny.
Yeah. Official hotel booking partner.
That used to be the
official hotel thing, partner.
I feel like announced the American Associations thing.
Yeah. I really hope
hotel planner becomes official hotel booking partner of American Association of Professional Baseball.
Please, dear God, let them announce an official concrete sponsor.
Congratulations to all involved.
How funny though would have been if like that Wednesday or Thursday before the bus fire, they would have announced the official busing partner.
I mean, they do post that. Like you see it all the time. Not necessarily Sioux City, but like other teams definitely do.
Yeah, there was a larger point I wanted to raise about this, but I honestly forget at this point.
Yeah. We gotta keep an eye on time here, so I'm ready. I can move on if you want to move on. I mean,
yeah,
I don't
we
know
can move on.
For like talking on field stuff, but we can at least touch on some things.
Exactly. Yeah, I do want to try to get some actual baseball discussion on here. It is the middle of August. We should probably be talking about actual baseball instead of all this off the field happenings. We'll go with.
So, want me to go about it?
And the thing part is the third thing we're about to talk about here could also be a headlining story because a storm hit the Lake Erie ballpark, damaged the outfield wall, killed power to the ballpark. They had to play one game on Wednesday at 5. Today they played 2 starting at 1. I do not know if power was restored to the ballpark.
I don't believe it was.
But teams were live tweeting that. So I don't know if that was just like broadcasters tweeting from their phone and using their cell data, or if that was
that was my feeling on it. I don't know. They might have, but I think it was today that they posted the thing with Alex Rodriguez in the dugout holding the sign.
True.
So
it could just be like emergency power.
They also had limited power, like they had some, but like with the outfield seeming to be sort of hit by like a mini tornado, then perhaps they didn't have everything out for the scoreboard.
It could be that. It could also just be generator power. Because who was it? Tim Calderwood who posted on Twitter how the structure was planned to be.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So Still, though, that's a hell of a situation, though, that one day your ballpark's fine. Next thing you know, your center field wall has now been leveled due to a miniature storm.
Yeah, I got a video on that one. I'll send it to you, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Got an insider sent me some video of literally the moment they realized the outfield wall was not vertical. They were like, okay, we're going back in.
They're like, oh, damn. We're not
It's
in
a big-
Kansas anymore.
What's the League of Their Own line I love? It was I've seen enough to know I've seen too much. And I think that was the moment right there. I got it on camera. So I'll send you that one.
Cool. But yeah, no, this is the situation here. Obviously, they can keep playing ball games like this, but I don't know how long they want to keep going with home games like this. That's going to cut it to the bottom line here.
Yeah, I'm setting their home this weekend too, so that's unfortunate.
Yep. This is where you go into that dugout. He's like, going, so how of you boys do carpentry work in the off season?
Yeah, right. How many of you guys are in construction? Let's see.
And they'll raise their hands. It's just like bullshit. At least one of you guys work construction in the off season.
They're all saying that they're out there grinding, getting reps out of data.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you post those 1 or 2 videos from the cage every day. Meanwhile, I see those Instagram story updates from the construction site.
Oh my God.
I've seen too many construction site photos in December to know that this is very much a real thing.
Right.
You all know who you are.
Yep. It's the precursor to the real estate move at the end of the career.
God. But it's always the same move. It's like season ends in September. September, October, and part of November is construction work. Then end of November, December, January, normally part of February is Winter League ball, probably in South America.
Mhm.
Then it's a couple weeks off in March before hitting the grind again in April, doing the tryout circuit if you haven't already secured a contract.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We know how this works. This isn't the first rodeo.
Anyway, where are we at?
We're just wrapping up the point on Lake Erie and their ballpark getting destroyed.
I mean, everyone seems to be okay. That's good. I mean, hopefully it's not too expensive, the damage, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the ball's not there.
Like I say, offer a $2,000 bonus to whatever player wants to step up and lead the carpentry effort to fix this wall.
Right, exactly it.
I'm telling you, I think there's going to be takers.
Probably will be.
Exploded. We need to
even if they don't know what they're doing, I think still take the money.
I mean, hell, like if you make it a $200 incentive, I know I just knocked off like 90% of what I just said, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, that did happen.
Don't worry about it. Just let it go. If you offer $200 to each man that helps fix this wall, I'm sure you can find a patchwork enough way to get to the next month.
I cannot believe we're still discussing the logistics of this.
Well, look, you really only need it to last a month because the way Lake Erie's been playing as of late, they're getting bounced in that wild card game.
Damn.
And on that note, let's talk about the Frontier League.
I was going to say, what is the lead they have currently? I got to check back in the standings here.
Oh, the problem is Schaumburg is the only team that can really catch him, and Schaumburg is saying, we don't want that.
Yeah, hard pass. We're good.
Just like to a playoff spot. No, thank you, sir. We got to get busy on our construction jobs.
Lake Erie still up 2.5 games on Schaumburg despite their slide here. That's kind of wild.
I see. I'd love to find what their record is over the last month. But here's the neat thing. The Frontier League's website is still broken and won't let me view a schedule in the correct way. So thank you, Frontier League. I appreciate you.
Who over the last month?
Lake Erie.
I can check that out for you. Other than that, you know what I really want to see, and they're in striking distance. They'll need some help, but they're in striking distance, and they're starting to get a little momentum. They're beating some good teams. I'd love to see Florence add some chaos and make a run.
Thank you.
I would love it
because I was looking at them the other day.
Yeah, man. They don't play Lake Erie again, so it's going to be tough to make it. But yeah, man, that is something I've definitely been keeping an eye on.
They are making a charge. Ever since we started complimenting them a little bit, they've started really rebounding.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. Also, Windy City's kind of come alive a little bit in the second half. They're not going to do anything. They're too far out. But, like, I do like seeing the fact that they're showing some life. I'm thinking Bobby Jenks may have something cooking there.
Maybe, yeah. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yo,
8 and
Evansville
16,
quietly 8 and
by the
2.
way. 8 and 16 in the last 24. Lake Erie is
300 winning percentage isn't good, boys.
not great.
It's not good. You're lucky you have a lead, and you're lucky your division does not want this. But
Yeah, Evansville is on a little bit of a run, though. You're right.
yeah,
I mean, not seeing anything too, out of this world from them. It's just, I mean, they absolutely murdered New Jersey, which was crazy. They put up 31, 43 runs in 3 games, 43-10. They outscored them, including a 21-0 win.
yeah. Chris really needed that series.
They've now won 5 of the last 6 games against Lake Erie, which is interesting.
Just a good matchup, I guess.
Something to watch, man.
But yeah, I mean, like Lake Erie is doing their New York Boulders impersonation right now.
Oh boy, are they ever!
Yeah, some teams are about to luck out because I really want to talk about the Boulders here. I've wanted to talk about them for about 2 weeks now. Every time something comes up, but
they finally got too.
Oh yeah,
I mean, Tri-City, man, they owe them a thank you.
Tri-City right now currently in second place, and we're gonna have to sing their praise a little bit too here. Which casually, New England now the best of the bottom 3 in all of this mess.
Oh yeah, I'd say so. They're playing some competitive ball, not consistently, but they are playing some competitive ball.
Yeah. Which also, Three Rivers, love the effort you gave here, but it's time. It's done.
Man, that sucks. I was really excited about that.
I was really hoping for them. They really needed a feel-good story, but good signs though. Matt Roush raising his D+ grade.
Yeah, how about it? Yeah,
that's really the victory here.
Well, that aged terribly.
I mean, like counterpoint, our Mike Pinto grade.
Yeah, Pinto grade. I mean, it's hard because on one side we always knew Pinto like that was going to be a rebuild year, and to be honest, the pitching is there.
Yeah,
it's the offense that is atrocious, but they did drop 12 tonight, so hey, everything's fixed.
Some people are going to be getting some letter grade bumps, and there's other people here not going to like their report card. But
well, you're not going to get a letter grade if you don't have a job. So that was harsh. Sorry, I think I'm cranky from the Southern Maryland conversation.
Good. But let's talk about the Boulders collapsing now.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it seems like in the course of about 6 weeks, they've went from a lock for first place to maybe not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the exact cutoff spot and do some quick math on where this all went sideways. Like June 29th, they really started up.
I wrote these notes out Thursday night for those at home, so these are a little out of date, but just roll with it. 3-7 the last 10. They've scored 5 or more runs 4 times since the All-Star game.
Ooh.
Once since the 26th of July. They've allowed 5 or more runs at least 5 times in that same span. So that being the All-Star game span. They got beat up by Washington. They got beat up by Windy City, which is not great, even though we just said they're coming back alive. But still, they should be beating them up. Shut out by Windy City at least once as well. And Tri-City got them good. Currently, they're struggling against Sussex. They really have had one commanding win in that series. Understand it's affected by weather, so it's not great. But even still, they've fallen out of 2-8 in their last 10. So this is just not really good. I will also say 15 of their last 23 games are against teams that are ahead of them in the standings as it sits right now.
Could say it's a positive, but the way they're playing, I would say no.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you could take a couple ways. You could say, hey, they have 8 games against Sussex County and New England and a game against New Jersey. So there are, those are 8 games you can win. And, if you start winning some games against Tri-City mainly, but Quebec, there's a series in there. I think there's an Ottawa series as well. And Ottawa's struggling too. Let's not get that mistaken. They're only a half game back of them. So you could absolutely catch up to them. That's certainly well in play. And you're only a game back of hosting the wild card. So, from that perspective, all it really takes is playing 500 baseball right now. The Valley Cats coming back down to earth a little bit. They're on a 5-game heater at the moment. So there was certainly that. Granted, they were like 13-5 or so since the All-Star game, but hey. So they come back down to earth a little bit. The Boulders start to level off, and then you get a series win against Tri-City. All of a sudden, you put this whole stretch, out of mind. Doesn't matter anymore. You're still in the same spot you were likely going to be in because Quebec turned into the Quebec we know with like a 667 winning percentage because they're absurd. And, you just focus on winning that wild card game and then dealing with whatever Quebec deals at you. So
they do play each other 6 times down the stretch here.
So there's games there to be made up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of the guys start turning it around. Just nothing's really working right now. And that's really the main concern.
Tri-City to end here. So what do they got? Like 3, 6, 9, 12, 21 games left. That's 21 games. They have 3, 6, 9, 12 games against Sussex, New Jersey, and New England. So that helps.
It certainly does.
It'll help the attempt to make a run.
Hopefully they get something going. I want a nice wild card race here, which we're starting to get a little bit of that. Frontier League coming through in the clutch on the field is looking to be a very competitive league. I'm liking that. I'm loving that. We need more of that.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Here we got a half game separating the teams on either side of the playoff cut line in the East. 2.5 games in the West. Not bad.
Yeah, it's close. It's close, and I like to see that. Do we know if Lake Erie plays Schaumburg the rest of the way, or is that?
I thought we checked. I feel like they do. I just saw that. There we go. Lake Erie, they've got Schaumburg this weekend, and they've got Schaumburg again the 20th to 22nd. So they got 6 against Schaumburg.
Okay, so there's some stakes here.
Mm-hmm. Get a little crazy now.
I like that. Where do we want to go next?
I don't know what you feeling, bro. Oh, take my pick? That's a bad idea.
We got 3 leagues left.
Not the American. Whatever.
All right. Cool. So there's like 4 real teams and the rest are trash, eh?
Kind of fading that way, huh?
I hate to be negative, but this whole episode has been less than positive, and I don't see it improving anytime soon. So who's been the biggest disappointment so far over the last couple weeks?
Oh, Milwaukee.
I put Fargo up there. I agree with Milwaukee, but I think Fargo needs some more.
Yeah, but Fargo hasn't lost their playoff spot.
Fargo's also in a division with Lincoln. But then again, I mean, Gary. So, yeah.
Right.
And caught by the Doghounds, who are playing very good baseball right now, though.
Fargo, I threw a little action on that one, gotta be honest. Fargo has, I don't know. I mean, they had a bad series against Sioux Falls, but like Sioux Falls is a very good team. They're division leaders. But other than that, I mean, they're holding their own. I think it's Milwaukee where I'm like, damn, dude, like you were falling apart here. Right now they're tied for that last playoff spot, but I mean, they were up, I felt like the better chunk of a week not long ago.
Yeah, for a while they were battling with really Chicago to get that 3rd spot in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's seeming like there's a real chance that they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
And quite frankly, if I'm picking just off of who I'd like to see in there, I mean, like I like to see our guy Jack get in the postseason. I'd love to see that.
Sure.
I'd like to see Altman get in because Altman Stan. But even still, they're just playing better baseball right now. And I think I'd rather see a better baseball team in the postseason. I think it makes things more interesting. Now, granted, I think if you're Cleburne, assuming they win this, although King County game back, they're still very much in play to win this division. Chicago, I think, is going to pretty solidly be the 3rd place team here and get whoever is left. If you're Cleburne, it's still a no-brainer. You're picking either Milwaukee, who's going to be, the sick man of the league, limping into the postseason, Or you're going to take Lake Country, whom, yeah, sure, they got good offense, but their ballpark's got like a 200-foot fence. So, like, let's roll the dice here. Let's see you come down to Dallas and see if you can't do that again. And I mean, if you're a Cleveland team, you're going to say, hey, we're built for offense too.
Right.
It goes both
Very
ways.
much.
So let's rock and roll.
And I mean, it goes back to my theory. If I root for whatever's kind of good for the league, I think it's good if Lake Country can get find themselves in this fight, get into the playoffs. I think that's good. I mean, Milwaukee's been in there. We've seen, that fan base enjoy some success. I like to see, this isn't an anti-Milwaukee thing. It's just more of a pro Lake Country thing. I think I'd like to see Lake Country find a way in. Just young organization. You like to see them find success early on.
Yeah, I also think it's good to see this kind of fight between these two for the postseason, that last spot, just because it helps build that rivalry a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a really good point too. I didn't even think about that angle, but you're right. And maybe that's honestly a good sign that, they should probably build that rivalry a little bit more. So hopefully this will help. And we've seen how High Point and Gastonia really have that edge right now after all that, close combat essentially for playoff positioning and playoff series. So we could see, we were joking just a couple years ago about them trying to play that rivalry up. We're like, easy there. Like, y'all don't really play meaningful baseball. Now all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, Gastonia and High Point are playing. I've got to check this out.
Oh yeah, like that's the thing. Like it's just better when that's the case. So I'm definitely rooting for that. Last point, we're on the East, and I know people are gonna be like, I'm talking about Cleveland. Well, Cleveland's kind of kicking ass.
Cleveland just kind of keeps going about their business. I mean, they're only up a game on King County, but like Cleveland is who Cleveland is. They have not changed throughout the year, so there's not a ton to say. I was all over Cleveland when the season started, and they are exactly kind of what we felt there. Like
exactly.
So
like, problem is with Cleveland, every time I think of them, I think back to that opening series, and I don't think that's fair to them, but I just can't shake like them. I mean, like, what are you? Like, what are you?
I still think that they still have they're still good for a weird game down there, which I'm kind of like, damn, Cleveland, what is going on?
And it's always right when you start feeling confident about them, right when you're just like, yes, this is it, this is their time. Then they do something crazy, like get blown out by Lincoln, and you're like,
I mean, it just happened. Like they won 3 in a row against Sioux City. They won 2 in a row against Milwaukee, and they did it by 13-7 and 5-1. And then they dropped 3 in a row to Milwaukee again, and then they won by 5 against Milwaukee. You're like, all righty then. Like, don't know what to take from that at this point. But I guess, all's well that ends well, so don't overthink it.
Exactly. And I mean, like, we give them enough flowers in the poll, right? Like,
I agree.
Like, I put them in my top 5 pretty consistently.
Right. Same.
So, there's that. King County, if anything, should have much more of a grievance for not getting talked about because they're basically the same team.
Yeah, that's true.
But
King County has been slowly becoming more the team that we thought they kind of would be, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like, I don't know. I guess I was trying to think through. It's like early on, we expected to see like limited offense and good pitching, and then all of a sudden they're kind of giving us the opposite.
They're an inside-out shirt.
Yeah, but now their pitching is starting to catch back up a little bit in stretches. So we're seeing flashes of what they could be. So we'll see if they have that sort of consistent by the time we hit the playoff push here.
Hopefully we'll get it together there. Quick point on Gary. 10-game losing streak. Finally broke that.
Hell yeah.
Victory. My God, though.
Yeah, man.
10 straight, man. Like,
yeah.
This week's too jam-packed to have the conversation. But you lose a series to Fargo, get swept by Lake Country, Chicago, and it's too crowded a week to have the conversation now. But there's going to come a point we're going to have a conversation about Lamar's future because, like, this is not good.
Yeah, it's not going well. Even on the standards that we've been seeing.
Exactly. Even by, like, the most generous, like, okay, well, this, standard. It's not good. Year 3 was supposed to be different.
Right.
Because year 2 showed some promise. It showed things. And I understand the whole, like, well, there's been visa issues and yeah, but like if everybody's having visa issues, right? But if your team's affected by them more, what does that say? Maybe we built our team with too many visa guys. Hmm? Maybe we should have done a better job with construction of the roster.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have had a better backup plan in place. Maybe we shouldn't be, pleading and begging with the Black Sox to take guys at the last minute.
Hey.
Those guys are good, but man, flipping other side, let's take a look at the West real quick here. Lincoln still an embarrassment. Sioux City still the JD Schulten show. Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City still extremely mid and extremely disappointing. Hopefully we can go ahead and get the glass and cigarette butts out of the outfield. I think we managed to accomplish that though. So tide's turning there, boys. Playing 500 ball and no more cigarette butts. Love that for you guys. Fargo, man, you are lucky that Milwaukee is spiraling. Otherwise, we'd be talking about how you guys are falling out of contention rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just about covers it because Sioux Falls managed to recover from their just downright horrible, awful, no good week last week. And Winnipeg's a half game out of first place in this division. So we have a little bit of a race here, 2.5, and then leading. So
we also have Kansas City, by the way, up 3 games on Sioux City, and that's not overly enticing, but they do have 5 games left coming up, the 19th through the 22nd. So that is still a potentially closer race than we're giving credit for.
I would ask you what the odds are, but you're going to try to run them in your head right now, and we don't need that kind of slow down.
No, Kansas City is still heavily favored.
Kansas City is still heavily favored. I'm kind of surprised it's not Sioux Falls.
No, we're talking Sioux City.
I was talking about winning this. I thought we were talking about winning this division.
Nah. Whatever.
If we were having a division talk,
roll that back. That's a Winnipeg Sioux Falls conversation. Yeah, they can fight over that. I'm not overly in on that. I think it does mean more to Winnipeg than anyone else.
Oh yeah, well, travel wise, yeah,
right. But I hate to be a buzzkill. I just don't invest myself all that much in that fight. I don't know. It feels like rewarding manufactured trauma. That's my hot take.
Fair enough. Do you want to talk about Winnipeg a little bit, seeing as you got your tweet highlighted by the league in reference to Winnipeg?
We are talking about them. I will point out they still have 3 games left against Sioux Falls, so we could see that get competitive, and that is in Winnipeg.
Do you know when that series is?
Oh, yep. It is Tuesday to Thursday coming up.
Oh, this week. Okay. I got stuff to watch.
Beyond that, Winnipeg throws their 9th shutout of the season last night. No one else has thrown more than 6, man. Pretty gross.
What a great pitching staff, man.
It is well put together, man. I mean, they're going to be a huge issue in any short series.
See, I just wish their offense was a little bit better. It's gotten a lot better. I'll say that much. It's a very much improved team from, say, June. But still, I would have liked to see a little bit more.
My baseball operations weak spot is that the common sense is if you have almost over-the-top good pitching, make a move to exchange somebody from that pitching staff for some additional hitting if you need it. But I have such trouble in my head, just letting go. I'm always worried is this the piece that's holding all this together? And then all of a sudden I'm not going to still won't have the offense I need. And I'm also going to be, now no longer have the pitching I have. So I'm always thinking about Winnipeg make a quick exchange, but I don't know. Go ahead.
Can I counter with this? They won 3 straight 1-run games against Lincoln.
Yeah, man. Lincoln is fighting.
And I will give them credit. They've gotten a lot better. Symington's good. Groves is good. Emery's good. Enriquez is good.
Mm-hmm.
Bramasco, another solid piece there. Max Murphy, not providing the same amount of power there as you'd like, but it is what it is.
Gets it done needs to. 1-0 win the other day. He was the one who hit the homer.
Yeah, fair.
And
And I will say they did try to make a move in adding Nick Anderson, which I do like that. He hasn't quite gotten there yet, but I do like it. And I'm curious to see what Edwin Arroyo can do when he gets up to speed. I like
Right.
Arroyo a lot.
I know you do. You're an Royal guy.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not. Just notable.
Anderson's actually starting to get together. Last week he's hitting 321.
Mhm.
Home run, 4 ribbies. He's getting together a little bit. Only 4 Ks and 28 appearances, or at bats, rather. So, not bad.
No.
But yeah, no, that pitching staff is just incredible, though.
It is so good.
Matalovich pitcher of the year coming up.
I mean, right? It has to be. I'm just trying to see here.
The thing is, though, the league could do the funniest, and by funniest, I mean trolliest thing possible.
Yeah.
If they give JD Schulten pitcher of the year.
Oh my God. Yeah. Let's go for the media hype.
I could see that. I hate the fact that I could see that. If they do it, I'm going to be so pissed that they didn't give a guy with a sub-2.5 ERA with over a strikeout an inning in less than 20 walks so far, over 103 innings, less than 20 walks. If he doesn't get this award, I'm going to lose a lot of respect for this league.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
ERA leader, strikeout leader.
Zach Rettinger just had another great outing.
Oh, he got the triple crown for pitching.
Yeah.
I know wins are a bad stat. I understand that, but triple crown for pitching still means something.
Right. And wins do kind of mean something when you have an offense that isn't exactly super high powered.
That is true. Yeah.
It indicates a little something about how things are going.
Means you're dragging those boys kicking and screaming.
A little bit.
We've said enough. Let's go back to the Atlantic League. Let's talk about only on the field now, actual play on the field. Long Island's kind of coming to life, aren't they?
A little bit.
They're making it interesting.
They are. I don't see them catching Lancaster.
I don't think they'll do it either, but I do think they make it a little bit interesting. 4 games back, so it's not possible. A lot of games left to play, but
now the interesting one would be. Nah, I think they're still screwed. I was trying to find what the Ducks wildcard situation was. It's not good.
Yeah, no, they're way too far out of it.
They're going to have to get it done, but. I mean, they definitely. I mean, they're getting good outings out of guys like Mike Montgomery. That's a huge win for them. It's even just more like the roster they thought they were going to have, like at least talent wise. Maybe not the names, but they've had a little bit of change going on there. But I think just talent wise, this is about what they were expecting. So that's a good sign for Lou moving forward. And role.
I think that's the biggest thing for me is it feels like Lou's getting more comfortable as a manager. He's making the transition more to it. I think it was a very difficult kind of transition to make when you go from being kind of like a player coach. It's a much different role that you have versus being a manager, right? You go from being the experienced guy, being the veteran in the room, being a guy that's a little bit easier to talk to, I think, as a player, to then having to go around and be the guy that's got to drop the axe on guys, right? Like when you're the essentially assistant coach to a guy like, say, Wally Backman, it's easy for Wally to be the bad guy, right? It's a lot easier to be like, yeah, guys, I'm going to bat for you. When it's now you in that role, especially for guys that are returning, it changes the dynamic in the clubhouse a bit. It's a little bit more tense. So
it was also an underrated, difficult transition to go from a coach on the team to the manager, because typically you see a manager come in, they basically reset the roster with a few exceptions. They bring in their own coaches, but like, since Lou's there, it kind of flips that where it's almost expected that you're going to keep at least a larger number of people.
Yeah.
And you have personal connections to all these people. It's not just like, hey, new manager, it is what it is. It's like guys that you've been traveling with.
Yeah.
And that you then have to be like, well, like if this was my team,
kind of
you
your
wouldn't have been
teammates
here the whole time. It's tough. Yeah, exactly. So that is another sort of understated piece of that.
Yeah. And it looks like he's finally starting to get in there. And I think over time he's going to get better. just generally as the guys he's played with start to filter out.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So I just want to point out the Ducks getting better. And also Zach Rakusin doing very well too. Indie ball guy. Raymond Santos
Right.
also should be. Zach Rakusin is like indie ball Hall of Fame level dude. He is just like, he keeps popping up. He keeps grinding. When I eventually wind up doing an award thing, Grinder of the Year is absolutely going to be a category. And Zach Rakusin should every year be included in that because this dude will get released from 3 different teams, find a new team, and go from like Sioux City, Iowa to Long Island, New York, then have to play in like Ottawa, Ontario, all within like a 6-week period. It's insane.
12 indie ball teams since COVID.
Grinder.
Yeah.
It's in the blood. But Triple Crown hopes are also dead now because Donovan Casey got signed by LA. That could slow down York a little bit too. I mean,
yeah, not great.
Yeah,
but
before he got signed, what we call him before he got signed, what we call him like a front runner for MVP?
I don't know.
He's certainly a finalist. That much is for certain.
He's up there for sure. Let's see.
Because he figured he was leading for what, batting average and RBI, and he had about 18 home runs, give or take.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's up there. I mean, he's up there around guys like Justin Wiley and like Keon Barnum. Jake Gatewood hit another bomb last night too. Gross.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess the question is, which stats do you value the most, right? I mean, he had almost 100 RBIs. He had 78 runs scored, so nearly a run scored per game. Just one shy of that. Over 100 hits thus far. 21 of them were doubles. Strikeouts were a problem. He also had 33 steals to go with nearly a 350 batting average.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
I mean,
I don't mean to relate things back to, but his last game that he played for York, August 2nd, against Southern Maryland. That must have been a whirlwind of emotion going through you.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, dude, he was in right field when that happened.
Bro.
Yeah.
Dude, just imagine that from a human element. You see a kid die right before your eyes. And then later that night, you're like, by the way, the Dodgers signed you. You're going to Double-A Tulsa. Like, that's got to be a lot to process.
Right.
One hell of a flight out to Oklahoma.
I know. My God. Yeah, that's crazy.
Moving on from that. I guess the only other Atlantic League thing I want to mention is Charleston.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is crazy right now.
One of the hottest teams in Indy ball, if not the hottest. I mean, they're right up there with Tri-City, which we didn't really give enough flowers to this week, but we'll do it next week. Just so that we don't backtrack, because we will have to eat crow on that one. But
well, we'll see about it.
They keep it up for another week, then we're gonna have to eat crow. There's no way around that. But Charleston, what was it, 7 straight? Sweep a High Point in Lexington in there?
Yeah, and they still got a lot of Lexington on the schedule. They're 23 against Lexington this season.
7 games with 9 or more runs since the 26th.
They're back, and their pitching staff's put back together
impressive.
too.
I'm genuinely impressed by the job PJ's done rebuilding that staff.
I've mentioned before, like I've been open about. I feel like his weakness is building pitching staffs. If we go back to mid-season last year with New Jersey to now, he's put together like 3 incredibly impressive pitching staffs in the course of basically a little over a season. I'm like, damn, all right, dude.
It feels like it's going to be an interesting playoff series between them and Gastonia, because at this point, anything other than High Point,
just trying to hang on to guys, man. Yeah, really, it does. Charleston has 3 more games against Lexington coming up. Trying to see what else they have. There's a lot of games left to play in the Atlantic League, though. We can't sleep on that. There's a lot of time for the wheels to fall off quickly. because Charleston does not have an easy schedule. They got High Point, Lexington, High Point, Southern Maryland, Staten Island. Okay, bad start. That's fair. Not that hard. And then Southern Maryland, but they do close with, I think, okay, I lied. They have a pretty easy schedule all the way out. They go High Point, Lexington, High Point, and then Southern Maryland, Staten Island, Southern Maryland, and then High Point, Hagerstown, Long Island. Who knows who Long Island is by then? And then 6 against Gastonia, where I'm sure they're hoping that they don't have much to play for on either end there.
Yeah. So,
it could be down a little. That could be fascinating, by the way. Gastonia bailing out High Point out at the end if this drags out. Right?
Funny.
Because I believe High Point, High Point's playing the Ducks then off of 6 straight against Lexington and 4 against Charleston. So there's a chance. There's a 10-game stretch there before the last week of the season where High Point is loaded up with Charleston and Lexington. So directly can gain ground, and then it's playing the worst team in the league. So it's not over.
It's going to be a crazy ride to the end on that one. And I'm curious to see. I mean, the schedule definitely means that you would at least assume, have to have some sort of advantage there, just odds wise. I mean, you're playing easier teams. You got a bunch of Lexington left. Come on.
Actually, now I look, I think they only have 3 Lexington left.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. High Point or Charleston?
I'm in Charleston.
High Point has more Lexington left.
Okay, so that helps them out a bit.
Yeah, so the drama is not lost here.
You're right. So it'll be a fun fight, though, to the very end there.
Want to wrap this with Pioneer League?
Yep, we'll wrap this with Pioneer League very quickly. I just lost the notes I had because I had to switch rooms.
Boise's so damn hot. That's your note.
That's pretty much what it is. Like, Missoula's really good. Boise's really hot. And quite frankly, there's going to be guys in that Boise staff that I think are going to get some very good looks for better independent. I hate to say better, as though Boise's a bad job. It's not a bad job, but it's not for some more veteran guys in that staff. That's obviously not where you want to land, right? You want to land in a more established league, and that's not where they're at right now. So that's going to be a really good one. They had a really strong start to the first half. I want to see them keep it up here, but they've definitely earned everything they've had so far.
I love the nightmare of playing in the Pioneer League with Missoula, where Boise, if you go to them a week ago, you're like, hey, you're half team up in Missoula. It's like, all right, cool. It's like, and you're about to win every game this week. Like 6, 7 in a row. What are we up then? It's like a game and a half. You're like, cool. Great.
Because Missoula is a machine. You have to understand that. You just don't walk in on Missoula.
Yeah, they are built different. I mean, unless it's the playoffs, in which case,
the Washington Wild things, if you would. But
they do not play way, by the way. But Boise has a potentially very soft schedule, depending on how things are. They have 12 in a row against YOLO, by the way, which YOLO still hasn't decided what kind of team they're.
Yeah, I just find it very
interesting. Fix the schedule, dude.
Which can we just point out? I mean, it's a whole different thing. Which also, I'm now looking at overall standings, and like seeing Missoula is only about 16 of 70 games. It's just like kind of like whoa.
I know. 53 and 16, 68
96 games. They have 27 left.
They're 10 and a half games over Boise. And Boise's won 17 of the last 20, and they're still 10 and a half behind Missoula.
I mean, Missoula may genuinely have an 800 winning percentage when we're all said and done.
Yeah, who they got left? So I got to figure out.
All right, while you're doing that, I'm just going to go over a couple of things. Boise,
yeah, you do it. I'm not going to throw a lot in. I haven't gotten a chance to watch much Pioneer League this week.
Yeah. Boise, they're pretty much a lock in the playoffs. I will say Missoula looks like they're going to get that second spot at worst, but should open up a wild card, which will make it interesting because right now there's only a game and a half separating NOCO, who's been a very consistent team for most of the year, and they have a very strong outfield. I really like them a lot. And the prodigal son, if you would, in the Oakland Ballers. So there is the very real chance that we get to see Oakland Baller playoff baseball. And that just could bring up so much stuff.
Yo, ready for this?
Yes.
The bottom 2 teams in the division in the second half are Great Falls and Glacier. That's also who Missoula plays the next 21 games against. Because Pioneer League, fix your schedule, dude. God, I hate it. Oh, and sorry, the other one's against Billings. The other 6 are against Billings, who are going 8-12.
We have crackheads making the schedule.
It's unbelievable that happened. I'm like, what are we doing?
Of those last 21 games, how many does Missoula win?
18.
Conservative number is 14.
Awful,
More liberal numbers probably about 18. Yeah, I'm going to settle in the middle as a fence sitter at 16.
I think 16-5 is reasonable, but they already just ripped 3 off of Glacier quick, and the 3 before that against Great Falls.
Keep in mind, though, they're going to want to line stuff up for the playoffs, so towards the end.
True, but
and they're going to try to rest some guys.
Buddy, I don't know if they're working that hard to do this. If I'm honest with you. I think Missoula's in a different league, bro. I think this is a Premier League team coming down to play a league below for soccer people who I couldn't even come up with the name of the second league, but it's fine.
So do they get 70 wins?
I think so. I don't see why they don't. They did take the foot off the gas at the end of last season. However, they also got cracked in the playoffs, so maybe they don't do that this year. There might be a new strategy going.
I just imagine Mike Schlatt in like one of the upper tier leagues.
I know. Dude, give him Lexington, see what happens. Let him rebuild Gary. Let the big dog rebuild Gary.
You know who I want in the Pioneer League to go over there.
I know.
I think I may have mentioned on the show before, but I don't remember. We know who I want. If he can fix this. I swear he can fix it. But, all right. As I run out of battery on my computer, I also realize this has been an incredibly long show.
Dude, so long. Good luck editing.
Yeah. It's not like I'm on my vacation or nothing. Why did everything have to go to hell when I'm on vacation?
Yeah, that's about right.
Why didn't it happen 2 weeks ago? Or a week from now?
Well, because life's a nightmare.
Oh, Lordy. All right. Why don't we talk about some plugs real quick and then we move along?
Sure. Indie Ball Nation on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, podcast platforms. You'll find me. I'm posting stuff.
Indie Ball Report on everywhere except for Twitter. That's Indie Ball Pod there. Because I can't put Indie Ball Report podcast. Or just Indie Ball Report. I can't get to fit there. We're so close. We couldn't get it done. So, yeah. That's not the first time that's been said about me and my efforts. So, you gotta live with the punches and roll with them.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll be going ahead and creating kind of fun content that we discussed about before I went away that we got to make happen, but requires some work. So
we'll see.
We'll try to make it work. In any case, so that's where to find us. It's been a long show. It's definitely been a heavier show. Hopefully next week, everybody's on their best behavior. We don't have any more issues. We only have to do a quick follow-up on some of the things we talked about. And we're able to have a fun, lighthearted show. Have a good time, really. You know, all the things you look for in this podcast. Only time will tell if we get to have the fun show that we want to have about being positive and all that comes along with it. But I guess we won't know. But until next time, don't forget to play